Okay, here we are today. We are starting in chapter 5, and I'm not even sure how deep we'll go into this chapter because there's a lot. We'll be going to about um, verse 28, uh, and just before we start going back to chapter 4, I think it's important to set the stage. Remember, these things weren't written in chapters as such before, and Jacob lets us know why he's writing this. He says, "Now behold, how is it possible that these, after having rejected the sure foundation, which is Christ, can ever build upon it, that it may become the head of their corner? Behold, my beloved brethren, I will unfold this mystery unto you, if I do not by any means get shaken by my firmness in the spirit and stumble because of my over anxiety for you." So the whole reason for revealing this next chapter, and chapter 6 as well, is so that we can understand how can the Jews, so it says, "This stone shall become the great and last and only sure foundation upon which the Jews can build," is all to do with how the Israel, or the Jews, interact with God and with Jesus Christ. And so basically he says, "Do ye not remember to have read the words of the prophet Zenos?" And I guess we could say, no, I don't remember, unless you've read chapter 5. Because we don't have the words of Zenos otherwise. It is all given to them in the brass plates. So in 3 it says, I will liken thee, O house of Israel, unto a tame olive tree, which a man took and nourished in his vineyard, and it grew and waxed old and began to decay. Now, I think it's important here that we realize that he had this nice olive tree. It was a good olive tree. And for years he had it, and he nourished it and took care of it, and it was just fine. So if you think of Israel, the house of Israel, from way back in, from Abraham on down and everything, and the things that happened in early years, everything was good, and he nourished it, and it took care of it. And even in Moses' time, he took care of the tree, and the people, Israel, and it just grew, and it grew into a nation. Then they wanted, they sometimes he had to prune it and dig about it and take care of it and everything like that. And then it comes to a point where he notices that the top thereof the main top thereof began to perish. So there was some new branches as he pruned it, but the top of the tree began to perish. And so what he decides to do is he decides to go and get some other branches from other olive trees that he has, wild olive trees as he calls them. Sometimes I think we have to remember that he's talking about a people that he's prepared to bless the whole earth. And this is a covenant people. It's a covenant. We're talking about him making covenants with them. When we're talking about the wild olive trees and things, we're still talking about groups of people who are still children of Heavenly Father and who are to be blessed by him as well. But we're trying to talk about what comes from these trees at this time, and what he wants to come forth from the tree. He wants them to be a covenant people, and one that does his will and becomes a shining beacon to everyone else. And so he wants them to do the things that will bring forth his fruit. And so he does that. He takes the main branches, cuts the main branches away, lets the smaller branches come in, but he also puts in, to balance everything out, he puts in wild olive tree branches. And I guess we see that a lot. I mean, when you're looking at the history, when we talk about the Old Testament, if you look at the time of Isaiah and so forth, there is that drafting in, the changing of things so that one goes one way and one goes the other, and there's a lot. If we look in the Bible, there's a lot of books written at that time. We have Isaiah, we have Jeremiah, we've got, I think, Habakkuk, and quite a few others that wrote during these periods as prophets, who prophesied at different places and different life experiences, I guess. And then we've got stories of Daniel and Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego being faithful, who was plucked out and planted somewhere else. And we've got I'm trying to remember her name now, the one that became queen, Esther, Queen Esther, and her example. And all these came from being plucked out, you might say, and planted somewhere else, and brought forth good fruit.